Power, Presence, and Persistence, featuring Angela Bassett and moderated by ELC member Kimberly Page.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Really excited for our Power, Presence, and Persistent fireside chat with the one and only Angela Bassett. As many of you know, she is clearly one of the most iconic American television and film actors and directors. And, quite honestly, throughout her career has portrayed a plethora of intelligent, formidable, and compelling characters. And most recently made history as one of the highest paid Black actors in television history. So in this fireside chat, we are really excited to hear her share some of the strategies and tactics and self-talk that she might have with herself. Because, as Black executives and quite honestly, Black people in general, we are often having to fully step into our power. And if we're blessed, we will, live lives that are personally aligned with our personal vision and values. And so on behalf of myself and ELC, just really want to thank you for your time today. I'm super excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And, we truly appreciate ELC. I mean, they're coordinating these amazing kind of conversations, quite honestly, that I think will give just a new meaning to what masterclasses mean. And so I hope that our mid-level executives can really, really take the time to really listen to some of these conversations in terms of some of these words of wisdom. So with that, I'm going to just jump right in and really just kind of want to start from the beginning. As you think about yourself as a young teenager and wanting to get into acting, you've clearly since then have had this really expansive and prolific kind of history. But looking back, what was that? What did you initially see for yourself? And what did success look like for you then?
So interesting. Now I have 15-year-olds. And at 15 was when I first started acting, falling in love with that as a means of expressing myself, what's in my heart, what in my mind, how to just get it out, all the sturm and drum and angst of the teenage years. And now that I have teenagers and I look at them, I try to remember that, oh yeah, I was there once, but as clear as they are about this is my future, I didn't feel that way. It was just a way of expressing myself. It was something that I loved and it seemed like I was good at. I was getting positive feedback, maybe from the little places and ways I was doing it on the little stages in Florida that I was, lucky enough to to step upon. But it didn't seem as if there were signs that, okay, this career is going to follow. But especially one in the arts, it seemed so distant and so far away. And I knew no one who had done it. But I could look at television, or maybe there's a film that would come through town where I would see someone who looked like me, whether it's Cicely Tyson or Ruby Dee, or Gloria Foster, or whoever it might be. And I think those were my mentors from far off. Not that I had someone that was right there and I could, see and touch and talk to and get some insight from, but it was aspirational. I could look at the work of these women and think, oh, I'm kind of doing a little of that right now. Oh, okay, well, I'll continue. I didn't know how far it would go. Of course, my mother was very practical, get an education, because she had stopped at 12th grade. So she was very adamant about, furthering your education, enjoy your fun, enjoy your passion, but further that education. So it was sort of, how do I balance or reconcile these two things? Because for a little girl like me, who doesn't have a safety net, you're going to have to be your own net. You're going to have to weave your own net to save, to save yourself, to live your lives. You don't, if you're not a trust fund baby, you don't have someone to take care of you, be able to take care of yourself. So initially, I don't think there were any signs. It was all going to be a gamble, but it kept snowballing and snowballing where this is what I love. This is what I love. I'm getting positive reinforcement when I do it. It may be a gamble. You may not see a lot of folk going ahead of you who are doing it. You don't know exactly how to do it, but you keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you find those resources.
Right.
You find those resources.
I think, what you've said, a couple of things that are so true to our community. And that is one, representation matters, because even if it's just seeing someone that looks like you, there's that inspiration to, if they can do it, then I can do it. And I know we often face that, in executive, boardrooms, when you're sometimes the only one. And then you go in and you walk in and you see someone, and there's this kind of nod that creates this kind of, this acknowledgement of being here together.
Exactly. It may be difficult, but just a glimpse of light in your life.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But you also talked about the gamble, right? And taking a risk. And I think, that's such a lesson for all of us, because it is, it are those moments that we kind of lean into that risk, that you end up having an amazing career like this. And it is because of the preparation, but it is, the willingness to step out, a function of preparation, luck, faith, all of those things.
Absolutely.
As you further your career, was there any particular role or moment that says, I got it? Like it, because you were still kind of saying, okay, I'm doing this thing, I'm getting some feedback. What point in time, or was there any particular moment that just said, I am here, I am destined to be here, and this is going to be an amazing kind of ride for me?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I said, well, I think the first time I did it, I graduated from drama school. I went to New York, maybe there were about 10 months of no acting. You're just, you have a job, it's putting food on the table, it's paying the bills, it's paying the rent, and you're just trying to gain a foothold. But I think the first role I got, which was with the Negro Ensemble Company, with whom I had done my, undergrad thesis on. So now with this historic company, and I'm the understudy. So I'm the understudy to the, to the three women who are actually going on stage each night. I think then I felt like it's possible. Or I would audition and not get the role. But I would get called back, come back. Let's talk. Let's see you again. Let's see you again. Let's see you again. And just that was enough. That was enough to buoy me and make me believe that it's going to break. It's going to break at some point, as long as I persevere and I remain positive and prepared, and I'm ready and I want it. It's just a moment. Yeah, it's just a moment. It's coming. Right. But sometimes you just need, just a little something to keep you going. And that was enough for me. I don't think it takes much when you're young.
Exactly. And if we're lucky, I think and if we're lucky, whether it's family or your hype squad or all your girlfriends, people who see things in you, sometimes you don't even see in yourself. Right.
Exactly.
And I know that your family and, your Aunt Golden was there for you and played such a big role. That was an interesting dynamic,
because of course we don't, who did we know who had done, gone into this industry? And she was at that time, Dr. Golden Wall, and she would continue her education every summer, just continue to learn and to grow and, just journey up in her field. But I remember she said to me, which I didn't take it as, I didn't take it negatively. It was just because of how she grew up and her background in history and her generation. She said, Angela, don't waste a Yale education on theater. It just wasn't seem practical to her. And it's like, because she cared about me. So of course she wanted me to, be practical. But she also prayed for me. I would also call her and she would pray for me for every audition. And whenever I get any little role, she was just, ecstatic. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can you, obviously you talked a little bit about that, but, just the importance of support system and why that is so important, probably even more so today, for us as Black executives, Black actors, just how do you fuel that support system? How do you show up for others? How do others show up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You have I mean, of course, you have your mother who was trying to, she wanted her girls both to be successful, be able to take care of themselves. And she was also, as a mother, now that I'm a mother, you applaud your children. You're happy when they're excited about something or passionate about something. But also, girlfriends have been very important, and boyfriends have been, extremely important in my life. They've believed in me. I guess I've found my tribe, and they support me. They applaud me. They tell me the truth. They want the best for me, and I for them. And that's been very, very important, because there are moments where you could doubt, or there are moments, like I said, 10 months of nothing, where you're like, do I even know how to do this anymore? And is this still working? So and of course, being able to humble yourself. For me, I'm a person of faith. So knowing, just believing that, that I have a purpose in life, that I have a God-given gift and talent and ability. And so having all that from above, from in front of me, from those in back, pushing me forward. And then, of course, you have your professional colleagues. But for me, friends and loved ones, especially, Courtney, so that in my moments when I just, when I can get down or negative, he is such a positive individual. And I'm like, thankful that he is there.
No, that's awesome. I often tell people, yes, I know who I work for, but more importantly, I know who I serve. And, that clarity in those rough times, just really, really allows you to show up in your most authentic, self. And I've seen pictures of you, and, you're always high energy, and, your girlfriend tribe, and I'm good friends with Eula. So I know I've seen you, and it's just so much joy. And I know the power of how that feeds into you and allows you to then kind of keep going and doing the things that you do. And part of what we're trying to really encourage some of our mid-level managers is that figure out what that support system looks like for you, both inside and outside, because there will be moments that, that's where you're going to get that kind of that fueling and that energy, and how you can kind of talk and just bounce things off of one another, such that
in this especially in this time, during this last year that we've all gone through, and the way that we feel, and it's, what's going on in the world has sort of like distanced us from others, so we really understand this. No man is an island. So,
right. Absolutely. Yep.
Saying that's right. We people who need people. Yes. It's never been true.
We all
never
understood
people. That song before. We get it now, and, telling my daughter, it's great. I remember hearing somewhere, and I think there's something to it, where you can have friends in your life, or people in your life, those who bring you up, who teach you, and then those who you teach, who you share, who you feed into. So we need to grow, and we need to give.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to switch gears a little bit just to this notion of, we've had a lot of internal conversations around silos, and sometimes how people try to, pigeonhole you. No, this is what you do. You do that. No, that's not for you. This is for you. And obviously, as the opportunities or some of the conversations that could have potentially happened within your space. But the fact that you've had such broad range of roles, what strategies or tactics have you used to kind of ensure that you've not been, labeled as one particular person in that, or one kind of actor? Is there anything that you can share by way of your approach there that could really be helpful for the listeners today to kind of hear?
I think especially when you talk about silos or being pigeonholed or put in certain boxes, that's something that, as an actress, I really understand. I mean, those are actual words that we use. I mean, coming through New York at the time that I came through, there weren't a lot of opportunities. I mean, there was Broadway, if you were a singer, and you had better be a triple threat, because there weren't a lot of dramas on Broadway. And that was my thing, drama, stage, not the dance, not the belter. So it's like, I'm not going to be able to do too much there. It's going to be a while before August Wilson comes through. There were also maybe commercials, but I guess my look wasn't the look then. It goes through these cycles about what Madison Avenue is selling. So a particular look at that time, and so it's really interesting to me to watch commercials today and see how things have come such a distance, such a long ways. I love it, so I had to go if I was getting callbacks for when people would come to New York from California, and I would get callback. But at that point, you weren't number one on the call sheet as the Black woman. You were a little further down the sheet, So I would remember saying to myself, I mean, let me go there. Let me go where another opportunity is, and try it out, at least for a little bit, at least for 6 months. And it's been decades now, and I'm still here. Right. I'm still here. But I think for me, definitely, like I said, coming from Florida and having no one around me to show me, to teach me, to guide me, for me, and my mother, stressing education, for me, it was about training. I know that this is a very subjective industry. Everybody's not going to like my brand or what I'm selling, or there are certain performances I like and you don't, and I love this or whatever. But for me, it was training, so that it's not just a feeling, night to night to night. If you're on stage doing a play for 2 or 3 years, an audience is coming, you want everyone to get the full measure of your devotion and get what they're paying for. So I needed to know how to recreate that. Although there's a great deal of magic, but I wanted to have technique. I wanted to honor the craft. I don't want a doctor who hasn't gone to med school. I don't want a fireman who hasn't gone through his training. They just feel it, So I wanted to honor the craft and continue to respect and honor it. Still today. I want to have a standard of professionalism when I show up on set, on stage, and I want to always be prepared. So I think those, the idea of those things translate to any industry or wherever you find yourself. I have a saying, my brother, dear friend of mine called my brother, he has a saying, and I love it. He said, don't mistake your presence for the event. Be prepared. Be prepared. Bring something to the table, and Absolutely. Be prepared to receive something. So that's just a little degree of humility, so that you can just, receive a lot, learn a lot,
Absolutely.
grow a lot.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, yes, just by way of your brand, and I'm certain a lot of the words that you just spoke to around just the standards that you've set for yourself and the level of preparation and being on time. There's probably so many people who would probably try to articulate your brand by way of, some of the characters that you've played, but would love to, as you think about your brand, how would you define your brand?
Oh, I don't, it's interesting. I don't sit and analyze it often like that, but I know I am an actress who's as interested in August Wilson as I am in Shakespeare. Yep. And perhaps that's a bit of why it can't be pigeonholed in one box. It's developing a lot of different areas of an interest that you have, trying to be as broad as broad as you can, but also, as grounded as you should be. I think there is, I try to bring strength, but I also try to juxtapose that against vulnerability, because, what we are to do as actors is to illuminate the human experience. And I don't think we're all strong at all times. I don't think we're weak at all times. We fluctuate as human beings between the two. So, I try to just express that. I try to do things try to remain passionate and love, when we talk about that first love, and not be driven by, not be driven by money. I would have a manager years ago who would say, "Oh, she turns down." So, because I don't want to be the person who says, "Oh, here's the offer." And you're like, "Well, I'm the last thing I'm looking at is the role." I'm distracted by something else. I want the muse to always want to show up.
Yeah, I love that.
Of course, we go through different phases in our lives, and different things are important. We become these people who take care of kids or take care of parents or whatever. So, what we need and what we do changes from time to time. But if we can always, reflect with who we are, where we're going, what we need, what we want, and just always remain, I don't know, grounded, focused, humble.
Yeah, no, it's real.
I think it'll be a good barometer for our lives.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I think that's so true. I know in past interviews you've often talked about or referred to, the dignity you and other Black actors, constantly try to bring to your roles, whether you were playing a secretary or a neighbor. There was just this level of, you played them as if you were kings and queens, right? And, this notion of, executing with excellence and dignity at all times for us, even as Black executives. Do you think that standard is helpful, hurtful, or neither? Both or neither, right? This notion of always having to kind of show up with such a degree of excellence and dignity.
Oh, that's interesting. I think, growing up in, 70s, coming through, child of, single parent, who didn't have as many opportunities, or someone to push her the way she pushed me. It's and always sort of looking out for someone to inspire, to be my mentor. Whether it's in the history books, well, there wasn't a lot of it in the history books at that time, but right. Or in the poetry of Paul Laurence Dunbar or County Cullen or whomever it might be, I got a sense that idea of excellence was in the DNA of Black people. Their resilience in the DNA of Black people. And so I would find the light, for us wherever I could. And then I had, my mother and my aunt who were constantly, if you're going to show up and to the best of your potential. And that path of opportunity that others are coming after you. Right. You have responsibilities to show up, responsibility to yourself, just as a Black woman, now as a mother and as an actress. And sometimes, I don't know if I thought of it as intense pressure. It just is. It just, is what it is, and I just, and that's a part of, I guess, of who I am. Now, perhaps as I mature in life, it's like, what the heck?
Whatever.
But I guess I've been doing it for so long, you just always want to be honest. Yeah. Honest with, what you need at what time. But it was just very important for me coming up when I did to make my community proud, my family proud,
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm from the South. So it was just that notion of, that Southern pride and really having your work be that point of pride, because no matter what, you've shown up and you've done your best, and to your point, we're prepared and wanted to add value. So really, really appreciate that. That's a real interesting conversation to be had with the younger generation right now, but we won't go there. Not going to open that can of worms.
And I'm always like, when I was, and they don't hear it, they don't believe it, they don't hear it. I sneak it in whenever I can.
Exactly. So in terms of kind of vision and values, I would imagine at this point in your career, you have a considerable amount, of influence and say as it relates to, the opportunities that you pursue. Right. And so as you're thinking about that, how do you decide what you're going to do? Is there one particular role that's still kind of on that bucket list as you think about kind of what's next for you?
A particular role. I don't know. I mean, all the roles I've done they've been so sterling in character, right, that I almost feel like I want to go the opposite way. We talk about dignity. Isn't that interesting? I want to go the opposite way now. But whatever it is, I want it to, it has to be a complete character. Even if she's bad, she's complete. There's a reason for it. But I think we always have even in the beginning, you have a say. You have a say of, how you are going to show up. How you're going to show up for yourselves, how you're going to represent yourself, represent your industry, represent your, yourself in business.
Right.
Where I remember, early on as an actor, it's, I'm self-employed, I am, my whole corporation is like one person. So, I'm like, how am I gonna show up for me? And you think I have an opportunity now, but even in the very beginning, I could decide yay or nay. And I remember early on, there were auditioning for, there was something that came through in the little script pages. I mean, I'm at the beginning, my $200 apartment in New York, and the script was, he takes her head and puts it in a bowl of dog food. And maybe I'm wondering how to pay my rent or, groceries or whatever it is, but just the way I saw myself, and I see women who look like me, and I know that, that imagery travels, and I know that that's an energy that we're putting out in the world. It's like, it's wrong. It's not right. And I don't know who's trying to do this, but I can't co-sign to this. So a way will be made, but I won't make it this way. Yeah.
Nice.
So you always have an opportunity to have a say-so. It may not be vocal. It may be in your ability to exercise your no option.
Yeah.
Just as powerful. It's more powerful than saying
sometimes
yes.
It's more powerful, what you say no to than what you say yes to.
Right. Can't dance to every record. You'll wear yourself thin.
I'm going to write that down.
Choose your music.
Choose your music.
Yeah.
You mentioned energy, and I think, seeing you and obviously, talking to people who know you, there seems to be just this amazing energy. And oftentimes when the days are long and, you're working on, these long, movies, or for us kind of, these, long kind of initiatives at work, where do you pull from? How do you, whether it's just your own regimen, but where does that kind of, that source of energy come from for you?
Ooh. It comes from, well, like you're saying, for me, looking up, looking upward, prayer. It comes from working out, because sometimes the stress is so thick, and sometimes you're just so busy. And I find for me, it does help if I can sweat it out, run it out, do something, even though I'm not as consistent as I should be and want to be, especially if I have to be at work at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm going till 6 a.m. until daybreak or whatever it might be. And you're just exhausted. But so, and also just having people around you who get you, who will forgive you, who will allow you that safe place to just, be ugly, to moan, to groan. That's what I mean. Sometimes to be frustrated, so that when you walk out the door, you have the best attitude ever. I think as long as walk out the door and you're interacting with people, try to have a good attitude. Don't underestimate that. Because I used to say, coming through, and interacting with so many different actors, I was like, oh my God, what a terrible attitude. They should be brilliant. If you're going to have that poor attitude, be brilliant.
Right. You can't be bad.
And if you can't be brilliant, have a great attitude.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. So I'm like, another nugget. If you can't be brilliant, have a great attitude. Oftentimes when we are, thinking about our careers, and again, going back to, kind of this community who's going to have the amazing honor to listen to you, there's this myth or this counsel that, the plan has to be just so, right? It's this, you do this, and then you do that. And it's a very linear kind of process from point A to point Z, but we know life doesn't work that way, right? And, oftentimes it's some of those twists and turns that, there's a surprise and delight there that puts you on a different path.
That's funny. I always thought in business, it is like you do this step, next step,
It used to be, but
the ladder.
The marketplace is so dynamic and moves so swiftly that sometimes you have to pivot, right? And those, those people who are so rigid that can't make those moves, you kind of find yourself kind of stuck a little bit. But, I think, for me, I follow, a win or learn. Like, what are we going to do? If we fail fast, we get up and we keep it going. It's one of those things. But I often
we failed. I learned that, that's one way not to do it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But looking back on your career, what was one of the best mistakes you've made?
One of the best mistakes, I would think, if I think about it, because, it's been choices all along the way. Mm-hmm. And even today, I think, as in this industry, I don't know if audiences are going to buy it. I mean, maybe, with Black Panther or something like that. Oh, there's a core audience who's going to love it. But then there were more people who loved it, who weren't that core audience of, comic book heads or whatever. There was just this, but you don't know, my entire career hasn't been Black Panther,
Right.
Knowing. So a lot of times it's been just showing up and stepping out on faith and just, this is something I want to say. This is something I want to put into the ethos. This is an idea. I remember years and years and years ago, I did played the mother of the Jackson 5. So growing up, they were my favorite, little singing group. And maybe when that role came along, my representatives didn't think that I should do it because of what was being said in the press. But I was playing the mother, and the way they honored their mother, that was something just personally for me, to honor a Black mother, having been raised by a single mother, or or auntie. That was an idea that I thought was worthy, that and so it's very subtle. It's just in my heart, and went on to do the project. And at that time, when maybe we had ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, maybe 4 stations and not 4,000,
right.
To get 40 million eyes on something at one time. And that's exactly what happened. It was a huge success. But whether it was or it wasn't, it was just an idea, the way in which I was raised, who raised me, that I wanted out there. So sometimes people don't know what your choices are. It's right. It's not always financial, but sometimes it's just about being a human being. But one of the mistakes that I made that I learned from, so that was make decisions that I want to make. Not some. I mean, I get counsel. I'm one for loving counsel. This is happening. Okay. I listen, and then you take the measure of your own heart and your desires. Okay, you got the pros, the cons, and all of that, and then you make a decision that whichever way the mop flocks, you can live with. You're gonna live with it. You can live with it. And early on, I remember years ago, I was, every actor wants to go to Broadway, and I was doing a play. We were traveling around, but the eventual thing was we were going to land on Broadway, and my character came in at the tail end. I really interacted with most with one actor on stage. And being this young actor out of conservatory is about how we get in there with each other, and we were really collaborating and all of that. But he came into the process late. So he had to just be technical and get his line. And maybe that was the type of actor that he was, but I didn't feel we were connected. I mean, I literally took the contact lens out of my eyes. So it would be just this blurry image, and I could sense memory and put there who I needed to put there to be able to garner the emotion that I needed, but I was so frustrated for the entire run, and I would complain. I complained to you, whoever would listen, whoever I could grab, I would just complain about this person. I'm trying to control it. And I couldn't. It just was like, horrible. Till finally, I just couldn't. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I thought, this is awful. I love this. I'm complaining about someone. I'm trying to control it. Nothing's happening. And I walked away, not knowing if this opportunity would ever come back around or not. So, but I was willing to walk away, to fold my cards and walk away. Fortunately, it did. It did come back around, and I had to just reassess. If I go back into this and nothing's different,
right, and nothing
from how it was before, and it wasn't, that I would be different, and I wouldn't allow someone else to rob me of an experience that I needed to have, wanted to have, work to have,
right?
So that was a situation where I think I learned a bit.
Yeah, no, that's so powerful, because I do think oftentimes when you want these things and when you go in, those conditions may not be exactly what you think they should be. And then you kind of, sabotage yourself a bit, and you kind of get in your own head. And I think,
as Courtney says, if it weren't for the people, but you know what? People are everywhere, and we have to learn to work with the people. Some of them are so easy to work with. Oh my God, they're going to teach us, be mentors, and some are going to be so difficult. They're going to be impossible. Right. But you're the constant. You're the constant. You are the constant.
You are. I think that's such a lesson.
You're the variable. You're the constant.
Absolutely. Something just as a side note, obviously, as we're continuing in this kind of pandemic, any new skills learned during the pandemic? Any, how did you and the family stay busy?
Oh, well, they're the bike riders, riding bikes. I was good at the bike until I went over the handlebars. So I haven't picked the bike back up since then. I picked up the pots and pans. Okay. So, a little cooking. So a little uptick, and then work out, then bring it back down, again, bring it back down. So a little fluctuation. But, isn't that life?
That is life. It really is a testament. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I just want to thank you for your time, and just, as we begin to wrap up, I know, the audience here are really mid-level executives, and just, are there any kind of parting words of wisdom that you could share as it relates to the power and your presence and just being persistent, that you could leave and share with them?
Sometimes you just have to look in the mirror and you have to have a talk with yourself. You have to, if no one's around you, encourage yourself. And never give up. You have something so powerful in you that others need to see. They may be seeing from afar. Someone's always watching you. You could be an inspiration and not even know it. So, just be aware of that. You're also very special. Talk to yourself whenever you need to, in the good times and in the low moments as well, especially in the low moments. I was like, you can do it, Angela. You can do it. We want to have a pity party. How long you need? 10 minutes. Okay, take your 10. Girl, take 12. And I literally would have to do that, because sometimes there are times when you just feel like you can't, but believe in yourself. There's always somebody around you, as long as you put your best effort, who wants to see you achieve and will come to your defense, will come to your aid. And there's always someone whose aid you can go to as well. So be humble, stay strong, stay resilient. That's you're of that kind of people. It's nature and it's nurture. So nurture that within yourselves.
Thank you. Lovely, lovely. And with that, again, just want to thank you for the time today, all of the insight and the wisdom. And I think the audience will, I've written down a couple of notes myself. And so I know that they are going to really, really enjoy the conversation. So on behalf of myself and ELC, we just want to thank you and wish you continued favor and safety for yourself and for your family.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.